I'm Shakil Sarafian.
I'm Lim Xian.
I'm Brindha Menon.
We've all been given a design job each.
I would be out of fashion if I was in the 30s.
So if my machine breaks down, I'll call you in.
For a first timer, I do see the potential.
And we're hyped to see where this will take us. Heritage, community, and the warmth of home-cooked food. That's what customers love about my client. They are looking to revamp their menu design with a heritage theme, so I'm going into the history books for this one. But I'm just a little worried. Will my illustrations look too cartoonish? What in the world is gouache? And how am I supposed to make these chicken wings look juicy? The art of illustration is turning ideas into easy-to-digest visuals. Sounds simple? Far from it. But when done right, it can convey a story with just an image.
I'm actually a self-taught illustrator. I love drawing and I love doing sports. And I'm also a new mother, so I'm also trying to balance my hobby of drawing and designing on top of the new responsibilities that I now have. My design style, quirky and cartoony, and I draw lots of inspiration from cartoons that I watched when I was young. So when I saw Pondok Abang's socials, I noticed that they featured more of the person behind the brand. And they're not so much focused on design to help them tell the story, but I did notice that they use a lot of green. So green was a color, I guess, that they used for their branding.
I'm meeting my client Hassan at their food stall in Clementi. But I've arrived early, really early, just to get a glimpse of what I'm up against. Pondok Abang isn't just a food stall that sells piping hot, ready-to-eat dishes. They are a multi-generational food manufacturing business with a range of frozen and ready-to-cook meal kits.
Can you tell me more about the history of your stall?
I'm the second-gen owner of Pondok Abang. We have 2 stalls which we brand it under Abang. My dad started off selling food back in the 80s. He started selling Indian curry puff at the back of his motorcycle. He did that close to about 20 years until he finally decided to open up his own food stall. So in the 90s, he came here to Clementi and opened up Abang Muslim Food, where he sold Malay dishes like Nasi Lemak Pandan, mi rebus, mi soto, mi siam, and a lot of other dishes.
Hassan's father originally set up Pondok Abang with his wife. When she retired in 2014, they took Nasi Lemak Pandan off the menu.
Can you tell me more about this Nasi Lemak Pandan dish?
This is our heritage dish that I hope that we can bring it back here and serve it to the Clementi community.
Okay, nice. Nasi Lemak Pandan. I'm guessing that pandan is your secret ingredient for this dish. Yes. Which is not so secret anymore.
Which is not so secret.
I'm really excited to start, but I just want to be clear on what exactly I have to deliver for you and your brand.
So number 1, the menu. And number 2, the apron.
Okay.
Hassan also brings me to Pondok Abang's second food stall at Cluny Road to have a look.
So basically, it's important for us to portray our heritage food since 1990 and to portray the Malay cuisine, the Kampung spirit, and the essence of local food lah. Because we want the locals that come here and also the tourists to actually experience this. So of course we want it to be a bit cartoonish because the logo itself is a bit cartoonish. The portrayal of Kampung, all the coconut trees and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so heritage elements, and you're okay with a cartoony style?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, sounds good. I'm quite excited because it's okay with the cartoony style. Now I just have to think about how to complement the current caricature that is part of his logo And the elements, I haven't really thought so much about heritage elements. There's some research that I need to do for that. The menu board is quite big, so I have a lot of space for details and design. I can't wait to start.
So the Kampung spirit, that's what my client wants in the design that I'm going to put forth for him. So I'm going to do some research now and find out something that I can use to include my design.
Obviously, kampungs don't exist anymore, but I remember recent news articles that showcased how some people living in HDB flats are trying to recreate this kampung spirit. Maybe that's a good place to start, with the earliest batch of HDB flats.
I think this entire series here covers the 70s, whereby they will transition from kampung lives to HDB.
There, just what you mentioned, and I flipped it. Yeah, so I see some huts here, and this doesn't look like the BTOs that are coming up everywhere in Singapore nowadays. So it looks a bit longer.
You can actually still find them in Toa Payoh, you know. The HDB design actually comes from this.
I see.
Maybe some here, like the market, you can also see housing estates, like a house
lift.
like this.
Yeah.
Now this is the one.
Okay.
In the story, you can see that Madam Kwan has drawn beautiful pictures to tell you where they're staying at this floor and that.
I love these details, like because of the plants outdoors. Nowadays, we are encouraged not to have so many because it can be like killer litter. But then Madam Kwan Chanmi has it very nicely put as details in this very nice page here.
Madam Kwan Chan Mei was an illustrator of children's books and school textbooks in Singapore during the 1970s and 80s. She also taught illustration at the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts. Since Madam Kwan's passing in 2012, Oscar has been serving as the custodian of her illustrated children's books. With almost 20 years of experience as a visual artist, I'm sure Oscar will have a wealth of knowledge about Madam Kwan Chan Mei's art to share.
And there are some other stories that you can find, but it's basically very localized, very Singapore content. Do you realize that Madam Kwan put in a lot of effort to research on the expression and emotion of the people that she drew? Like in this story, right, the fire, it was so intense, and looking at the tension over here, even in such a small corner, she's able to show people running away and in despair by holding their head.
Yeah, the details are so simple, but she manages to capture the expressions of the characters quite well.
This is used, I think, for very good for printing, so that it's very striking. The colors are very sharp. So you can see when she used gouache, right, she used it in a very careful way. If she used sparingly, it helps to give the very cinematic effect. For example, this one, you can see the smoke, right, it's probably painted in thick gouache, so there was a good mix, but you can still see the flow. Look here how she presents her style, right? She has very different style if you look at the pictures. Some are made by cutting, like paper cutting, and then some are actually painted in gouache, and then some are using stickers.
Oh, stickers?
Why not?
Okay. Do you have an example of the stickers?
Like this, like the wallpaper here.
Oh.
This is not painted. This is a sticker where she cut out. And then back in the, I think, 70s graphic, they don't use computer, do they? So they have to use everything that they can.
So these look like something that is very uniform throughout the book.
Yes, you can see the grass here, right? It's overlaid. Anything that's overlaid, it will show the texture.
Okay.
It's quite fascinating.
Even this lady's baju.
Yes. I suppose like the modern washi tape.
Oh, yeah.
One where you can trim the edge and then you stick them, right? I think it is similar.
It amazes me because like the amount of work that goes into this, and she's doing so many pages and the characters look similar. That is something I still struggle with, even though I have a accessory to undo and redo and copy and paste. She didn't have this back in the day. I have so many inspirations to draw from Madam Kwan. Oscar reminded me that the details are important and that I shouldn't miss out on them. I think I'm going to feature that in my design.
I like the prints that was featured in Nina and her house. in the part where the bedspread and the bolster because I like the patterns on it and I think can be used somewhere in my design, maybe on the clothing of the people that I'm going to include. Even though it's a static page, the way that she depicts every character having movement, certain expression, it's really something that I aim to achieve and hopefully can with the people illustration that I'm going to do.
I'm designing a menu and an apron for halal food manufacturer and hawker stall operator Pondok Abang. For this, I'll need a design that can satiate the hungriest visual appetite. I recall Oscar mentioning a paint medium called gouache. Gouache is basically a type of water medium paint that is mixed with different white pigments to give the artwork opacity.
I've always been interested in gouache. Is it the same as watercolour? Is it the same as poster paint? I talked about some of these things with Oscar, but I want to find out more and see if I can actually get a first-hand experience at painting with gouache. So I'm going to search whether there are artists in Singapore that can help me with that.
Siying's artwork is a feast for the eyes, and it looks like she has lots of experience with food illustration. I am here to suss out some of her secrets. If I'm going to illustrate food on a menu, it needs to look delicious.
Is there like a reason why you prefer gouache or watercolour?
So when I went into gouache, I wanted to do more complete paintings, paintings with a background and things like that, because you can build on the layer. Compared to watercolour, it's always from light to dark. Yeah, but with gouache, you can do dark and then light again, and then dark again. You can always go back and forth like acrylic. So actually, a lot of artists, they like to use watercolour with gouache. So they can use white gouache as a highlight.
So I made a sketch of the dish that my client wanted me to feature. So I'm going to show you, and then you probably know by now why I'm here. And I'm not here to learn one thing or two, but I think I had to learn a lot of things from you, Siying. Once you look at it. Ta-da!
Cool, okay.
So this is like my... Yeah.
Simple sketch.
Yes.
First up, right, the egg actually looks as big as the chicken wing.
Okay. So I'm going to write down proportion and size.
So we have to get the proportion right first.
Okay.
If not, the egg will look really huge beside the chicken wing.
Got it.
And then we have to think about whether you want it to be from the top view or you want it from the side view. Maybe we can do more organic shapes because food are usually a bit more irregular shaped.
Okay.
So for the rice, right, we don't want to draw every single grain, but we want to show the impression of it. So you think of it as you're looking at it from very far away. So how would you draw the shape?
The software that I use, it's so hard to bring across traditional feeling to the lines.
I think for those you can use layers, colours and things like that will help bring out the shape better as well.
So can we do that through gouache?
Yeah, definitely.
Siying shows me one of her paintings she has been working on recently, which also happens to be a plate of Nasi Lemak.
Maybe we can focus on the rice since you were talking about it earlier. For the rice, we have some green tones on it. Okay, so I usually like to do a underpainting. My underpainting is orange in colour. So when I paint the green on top, it has a bit of a yellow look.
Underpainting is the initial layer of paint applied on the canvas. It serves as a base for the following layers of paint and helps to enhance the depth and colours of the artwork.
And for food, right, one of the tips is that the more tones you use, the more delicious it looks. So if you notice some of the food or the plate, it has some orange look.
The tint.
So yeah, so let's prepare that first.
Okay. I'm so scared.
Take more pins.
Okay. It's very light.
Don't let it dry out.
Okay. Because it's too brighter. I don't know why. Is it because my brush is too watery? So, Siying, this is dry now. What's the next step?
Next step will be mixing the greens for the rice. Okay, so let's make a dark green.
Okay.
So wash, we paint from dark to light.
Okay.
Okay, dark to light.
Yellow plus blue.
Yes.
Okay.
But you have to take more paints.
Okay. Tomorrow I'm always picking up less paint. Yours look very...
You must really soak your brush.
It looks like a fountain of matcha. That's what I'm saying.
Try to blend it will be good. So you want to get rid of the lines.
Okay. So there's no regrets taking a stab at gouache, but I'm still an amateur, so I'm not going to use gouache for my final design for my client. But there's some things that Siying shared with me that I'm definitely going to use for my food illustrations. One was my proportion of the items on my plate. So I have to make sure that they look realistic. And number two, the angle at which I'm going to showcase them on my illustration. So in terms of gouache and what I learned from her, I'm going to use opacity on the digital media to make sure I try my best to capture the different dimensions, colours and layers that Siying taught me about.
So, now that food illustrations are kind of something I've already learnt about, I need a more holistic view. How is it going to look like on a menu design? Singapore heritage and the Kampung spirit. I have to keep Hassan's requirements for Pondok Abang in mind. So, I did a bit of digging around online and found an eatery that's been around since 1986. Dolphin's restaurant specializes in Western food, and fortunately, it has preserved its old menus. The current owner, Jason, tells me about the evolution of their menu design.
We've been around since 1986. You can see that design elements that is very different from today itself. This daily set lunch menu here is actually taken from a word processor, like a clip art kind of a program. A lot of times people like to look at photographs. We can't have actually all just text itself. This harder.
The film?
Yeah, the negatives of that, or the food negatives in it. Now everything is digital, you won't see this anymore. As it gets more advanced, we can do some things that are more fancy. We could actually do printing in it as well. Although the resolution is not very clear, but it still serves a purpose for us. So what we got to see here is actually a food photo of what we're trying to promote.
And I can tell like from the outlines, is this pasted over?
Yeah, pasted over. There were colour photocopying at the point of time.
Okay.
But we could not copy all these photos.
See.
It's actually very difficult to change menu price, right? Just for the sake of it. So you will get a lot of this paste over, and then after a while, we'll just change the whole menu itself.
I see.
My previous research online also led me to Yah-Leng, a creative director with extensive experience in designing for F&B establishments. And this time, I don't have to go anywhere. She's come to me.
Today, restaurants had more work to do in terms of making sure that the restaurant guest has a more sort of holistic experience when they come to dine at their restaurants. The restaurant has to make sure that the designs for coasters, takeaway boxes, uniform design has to match the brand story, interior graphics, all that different sort of pieces must come together. It's more than just a menu nowadays. It's really about experience and storytelling. Storytelling about the food, about the culture maybe, and the origins, and perhaps even about the chef.
Like what you say, they all have to come together. I must make sure that my design is not like separated in a way to tell the brand story of my clients. So this is where I need your help, Yah-Leng.
So you can tell already what this restaurant is from.
I see tacos.
They were the first Mexican restaurant who truly want to tell the story of the streets of Mexico. So they really went to Mexico to do all the research, and we did get a lot of information from them that helped us formulate all the visual storytelling. So this is the menu, and you can tell that we try to make it a little bit cheeky and fun because that's what they want to be. You can see that we really try to tell the story. So we made many posters and we pasted them in the interiors.
Okay.
So that people who come in feel exactly like they would feel in Mexico. So we have actually added all these Mexican elements. That's fun. We also help them painted all the containers for the cutlery.
Cool.
Yes.
Yah-Leng's words about storytelling across the brand and not just the menu stood out to me. I decided to broaden my research and look into other marketing materials that eateries had in the past. This tiny book I discovered called Striking tells me that in the 1970s, restaurants used to give away matchboxes as a form of advertising. I may be onto something.
It really is impressive how they can fit so much onto the matchbox, which is very tiny. And look at this one. It's like a man carrying a platter of food. And from far, it's so attractive. And yet you know where to go and what exactly you can get at this restaurant. All in just one matchbox. I think I need to see these matchboxes in person to get more inspiration.
The author of the book is Justin Chuang, who documented matchboxes belonging to Mr. Yeo Hong Ing, a well-known collector of all things vintage. I managed to track down Mr. Yeo after a bit more internet sleuthing.
Wow, there must be hundreds here.
Yeah, it's collected throughout the years.
I see.
Mr. Yeo is also a retired teacher and author.
How did you end up collecting matchboxes as a hobby?
When we were very young, we have to use matchboxes almost every occasion. During those days, there were different brands of matchboxes. Later on, when the advertising agency find that using matchboxes to advertise their wares, their hotels and their restaurants, they began to make boxes smaller than the standardized one that we use. This advertising agency make it in such a way that one side of it is to advertise their telephone numbers, the other side for striking only.
Mr. Yeo, I see so many that are going to be great for my research. Could I have some time to look through most of them and take some pictures so that I can refer to them later?
Sure.
The passion and dedication to collect that many matchboxes, label them and have them neatly maintained up till date, that was something that was truly admirable.
Justin, the author of Striking, also joins us for a chat.
So Justin, why this book and why vintage matchboxes?
It really all started because of Mr. Yeo and his amazing collection. And then several years ago when I started publishing my own books, I was reminded of the fact that, he has so many of these matchboxes and they actually capture a slice of Singapore in the different designs. If you look at the designs from the 70s to the 90s, you can see how Singapore has really modernized across the decades. So I feel like design is a kind of language that not many people look at to understand culture.
These designs are very different from the ones that I was looking at with Mr. Yeo earlier.
So is there a reason why this go beyond just the utilitarian approach?
There was a period of modernization. There's this idea of abstract thinking, geometric designs, there's this idea of a universal language. So I think designs like these really reflect that attempt of designers who are creating these to, in a way, even create a logo for a company itself, right? That's not something that's actually very common until the 70s, 80s, 90s, when the idea of modern design came into Singapore. So this coffee matchbox really, I think, exemplifies the modernist idea of form follows function, right? Really incorporating the words to a coffee cup itself, right? You know just by looking at it what you're meant to get. Because logos are really meant to be able to communicate all scales, right? From a large signage on your store all the way to a matchbox. So I think this would be useful for your research.
I see some really nice ones. Like this one, the color, my favorite, pink and orange. The combination is really nice. And this one suits my research project a bit better. There's this shape of a spoon and a fork with the name of the coffee house. Interesting idea.
After doing all the rough sketches for the design elements that I plan to use across the deliverables, I realized that I can't really use that many vibrant colors on the menu because most of the food items on Pondok Abang's menu card mostly brown, like the chicken and the fish, and I can't really incorporate the green, so I'm struggling a bit trying to figure out the color palette and how to make it stand out and vibrant. I definitely need help to make the food items look appealing and realistic. So I'm gonna need more help and research that I have to do on that. So from Yah-Leng, I learned that across the different things that she used for her clients, they all were consistent and they told a story. Right now, they're just ingredients that are part of my client's dishes that he sells, but I'm not so sure if they're telling a story yet.
I've gotten lots of inspiration from my heritage-themed menu design, and I've come up with my first draft.
I finally figured it out. I know what's missing from my design. People think that I love to design and draw. I'm still not so sure where to incorporate it on the menu. I already have a layout for Mr. Hassan to give me feedback on for pitch 1. So if Mr. Hassan thinks that this is a good one to include, then I have to challenge myself and figure out how it's going to be placed on the menu card and menu board. Let's see how it goes.
I have two different styles that I presented here.
Okay.
This one is something that I'm usually used to,
Okay.
very clean lines,
Alright.
but this is a more realistic approach.
I definitely love the realistic approach, but probably not with the words inside it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But this one looks a bit like, I also do not know whether is it chicken wing or chicken leg, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can.
So I think the realistic approach would be nicer.
We wanted the Kampung spirit. So these are like two boys enjoying your Nasi Lemak Pandan at your shop.
It would be great that, you know, we can reflect people of like different ages, because the food that we provide suits people from all ages and actually all races.
So this is like my mock-up of your menu.
I think for this, right, it's a requirement by the operator for us to put actual photos of the dishes.
Okay.
So we need to include those inside the menu.
Okay.
Then at the same time, possibly also we can put like a legend below or somewhere to make a translation, like nasi equals to rice or something like that.
Okay. Just now I had it as the icon.
Yep.
So this will be like a revamp version.
Yeah, correct. I actually look forward to seeing updated version soon.
Okay, thank you so much. In my first pitch to Pondok Abang, I tried my very best to stay true to my design style that I was so comfortable with. So very clean lines, colours, not too much of detail. And then when the feedback came back to me, I did question myself whether it made me feel like, oh, my design style is not good enough.
But there's no time for moping around. I need to get back to work on the design draft. Hassan mentioned that the food items on the menu should be in the form of actual photos, but I'm sure I can sneak in some illustrations of the dishes as well. He also wanted the illustration to show more people of different ages and races. So I found a series of local books for young adults that are full of mystery, adventure, and of course the Kampung spirit.
So let me just show you a few titles. This is from the book Jangan Mati Dahulu, or it can be translated as Don't Die Now. And then we have this book, Jalan ke Kubur Berdarah, or The Road to the Graveside.
Graveside?
Yeah.
Dying and graveside. I'm guessing the other books have also some morbid titles to them.
Since 1963, Pustaka Nasional has published more than 1,000 Malay language books covering genres like literature, religion, and children's content.
How are these going to help me? I'm supposed to have a Kampung spirit for my project.
Yeah, so if you want to focus on one of the titles, this is Sebelum Ajal Berpantang Mati, or translated as His Life is at the Tip's End. This story is related about a group of 4 children and their life in the Kampung area. So it's a symbol of the community at that time, where we have Malay, Chinese and Tamils together. and then they go on adventures and they help each other. I think it's quite relevant at that time that we reflect all the races in one book. In this scene, you can see that we have the picture of the playground in those days, and then of course at that time there were the first HDB blocks were built. So this reflects of how Singaporeans lived in 1970s. So in this scene, they were going for a picnic, and in those days, they all come together and they cook together. And of course, one of the favorite food is Nasi Lemak. So this is the kind of community spirit in those days. And then they bring all their food together and they go out on the same minibus or van and they go out for a picnic together. So this is quite common in those days.
I think I've learned quite a bit about how to capture my Kampung spirit in my own design. So thank you, Mr. Said Ali.
You're welcome.
I wonder how the illustrator managed to capture the scenes with such realism. Talking to him will definitely help my design process.
I've tracked down the actual illustrator of the old Malay youth fiction books. And he's none other than Mr. Idris Muhammad Ali, who has over the years created artworks in the realms of fine arts and book illustrations. And I can't wait to meet him to learn more from him. So I actually came across your illustrations in the Malay youth fiction books that were published by Pustaka Nasional. So I actually wanted to learn about how you go about with your art process.
Once you get this project, you have to look through the story from the beginning until the end. From there, you create a composition. Which part of the text you have to illustrate. Then I show to the writers whether it's okay or not. If there are any changes, then I have to redraw.
So Mr. Idris, I see that you use like 1-2 colours maximum, but like I see the effect that you create. How do you come about with this creation?
To make it effective, then you must show the depth.
Like a 3D depth.
Yeah, 3D depth. So from there you must know, before you do 3D, you must know the lighting. See? Which part the lighting comes from, where the shadow is falling down. So all this you must know.
So I actually made a sketch and I need your honest opinion, okay? So my drawing style is very different from yours. Mine is more like cartoony.
You want to use illustration for the realistic or the cartoon?
I cannot do your style, Mr. Idris. Your style is too advanced for me.
Okay, you can do it in cartoon, but you must know how to paint the color.
Yeah.
The line of the illustration must be improved.
Okay.
His style of drawing was realistic, actual. So if you look at his painting and you look at the actual scene that he's depicting, it's the real deal. So that was very different for me because that's not what I'm used to. I always make it a bit more imaginary. So I learned a lot from his drawing process and he commented about my sketching. So it's a bit different styles for Mr. Idris and me.
Now you look better, so now we can start do the color.
Mr. Idris has approved my second version of the draft with cleaner lines and I'm excited to start the next step with him.
Now, your turn.
Okay.
To paint the other one.
Okay, moment of truth.
You must show the lighting from where,
Yeah, from the left, right?
From the left, right?
I already darkened this part. So do I make this part darker?
If you forget already, so the left part is the lighter. So now you go to add in water, make it lighter.
Okay. Mr. Idris, you made it look so simple, but after trying, it's actually quite difficult, and I think I need a lot more practice.
Right, you're right.
So like, you see when yours dried up, there's a very nice texture and look to it. But then I think because I was not very confident when I went in.
Yeah, you must be able to control the water and the color.
Okay.
You see? And how you mix color.
There's a lot of work for me to do, Mr. Idris.
So one thing about the books published by Pustaka, I think the way the Kampung friendships, how the boys interacted, how they had that whole Kampung spirit portrayed in one shot. That's something I'm going to draw inspiration from. And for Mr. Idris, I think his technique for watercolour is too much for me. It's too high level. I can't master it. I think I'll dabble with gouache and see how I can digitally use it, but maybe not so much of watercolour. But I definitely learned how to create depth for my illustration. So I'm going to use it to create a depth for my food items that I'm going to use in the design.
My ideas for the final design are taking shape. Hassan mentioned that real food photos need to be included in the menu design, so I have scheduled a learning session with a food stylist and photographer. But first, I'll need to gather some vintage tableware as props.
This is made by porcelain.
Okay, cool.
So during those days, the parents will eat their dinner, their lunch by this one. But in the more by their kids.
Oh,
so
makes sense.
Like if we do all what it won't work.
Nice.
Dulang is actually kind of a platter. It's a little bit more dish to it. There are bigger dulangs where you put rice on it and 4 person will eat or 5 person eat together.
Okay.
But nowadays, people are using as deco.
Okay.
You know, just pick up the blue text and just paste it on the wall.
I see,
That's what we do at home.
Yeah.
So this is the glass that you have
Okay,
asked.
yeah.
Okay, slightly more aesthetic. This is one of the nicest glass, nicest color. You know, a lot of the green favorites.
Yeah, so this is perfect. So my client also likes green.
Right.
Seems to be his theme color. So
Right.
thank you so much for this. Thanks so much again, Rock and Yana. I'm heading to a studio for a very unique photo shoot. This is my introduction to the world of food styling.
So my client basically, he wants his Nasi Lemak Pandan dish to be featured, but I have no idea how to make his food look tempting.
You came to the right person. I specialize in set and food styling, so today I'm going to teach you what kind of props you can use to tell a story and also what's going on in the plate as well. There are some props that you brought, right?
Yes.
Maybe you just help me remove the paper.
Okay.
So for us as a set styling, we want to see as much props laid out properly at one corner as possible. Okay. So in that way, we can visualize like what can be used in the set. The difference about food stylists and set stylists is that food stylists focuses on what's going on within the plate. So it's about treating the ingredients, make sure the ingredients and the food look fresh, and also plating in a way that best complements the angle. The set stylist will think about, oh, what kind of table will actually match with your plate, what kind of table will actually match the story, what kind of background as well, and what kind of props to use, like utensils that are relatable to the heritage, to Nasi Lemak in the olden days. Yeah, this kind of elements, when it's pieced together, it tells the story. I got this really nice enamel plate as well. I noticed you have this enamel plate here, but I brought a different color, and also there's this yellow tone underneath. I know the rice is actually green.
Yes, correct.
So when the green is actually on the yellow, it actually gives a very nice contrast and it matches really well. So I think for this, we can actually plate that main Nasi Lemak set with the ingredients around, the rice in the middle. And then for this, we can actually just put the rice, and then for this, we can just put in ingredients, the chicken wings, the eggs and whatnot.
Okay, sounds good.
CR's plate reminds me of what Siying mentioned on how yellow undertones make food look more appetizing. Choosing the right colours sure can make a world of difference.
Alright, let's start off with the food styling. Okay. They already pack like the eggs and all the cucumbers cut already. So usually we prefer to cut it ourselves because we can have more control. So here we have a tray, and why is that so? It's pretty much the same that I told you about the props. You need to lay it out so that we can see everything.
Oh, I think I need a refresher.
No worries. So I need help to really take out all the eggs, right? Gently.
Gently.
And then face the yolk up and just place it. So what we want to do is we want to cast the eggs.
Which means?
Which means choosing the best looking eggs.
Got it.
For the shot.
Okay.
Okay, so take a pick. What's your best looking chicken wing over here?
So the first chicken wing that I would eat is this one.
That you will eat?
Yeah.
So specific. Okay, why is that so?
Okay, because it looks like it's the meatiest and the juiciest.
It does look like the biggest among this batch, but I might not be choose this because of the shade of the color as well. As you can see, it's also 2 or 3 shades darker compared to this piece or this piece and this piece. So in a way, when it's being captured in the camera, it wouldn't be so favorable. So shall we start plating?
Okay, yes, definitely.
Now that we got all the casting done,
Yay.
right, let's do it. Okay. Then the next thing I would do is to really finish up with a thin layer of oil across the fried food, just to make it look a little bit more juicier. What do you think, Brindha?
What's popping out for me are the colours. So earlier on you mentioned about how the animal plate here will complement the pandan rice. I can really see that coming out.
Yeah, the colour really shows, right?
Yes.
Why I decided to go with this plate
Correct.
as a hero plate.
Yes. So like when I picked out the vintage tableware, it didn't occur to me that I had to take into consideration how the dishes go on it.
Details, details, details. It has taken a lot of research and advice from some knowledgeable people, but all these have definitely paid off. Now, I know exactly what I want to feature and how to make my illustrations look absolutely tempting.
So design is something that doesn't happen like, oh, when the client tells you this and then 5 minutes later you are inspired to do something else. It takes time, but with a time crunch, I've struggled a bit with trying to match their requirements. So that was something that I really did learn a lot from, and it made me grow as a designer. So things that I changed and included is the apron design. So I went ahead with 2 different styles. The first one is really all over the apron. The second approach is more on the pocket. So wherever your staff would have their pockets, we just have the designs there in a neat row.
So I guess we can go with the minimalistic designer because that one is like so loud and like really so kecoh.
Okay. Okay, so this was the updated icons.
Okay, the shape looks cute.
So this is like my menu. So you asked for the inclusion of photos.
So I included a few color options for the text.
I think green definitely works for us because it looks a bit more uniform. So this I think works well, and of course people of different ages and races there.
Yeah.
Embracing the heritage Malay cuisine, Nasi Lemak Pandan.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My biggest takeaway is to tell myself that it's okay to step out of your comfort zone. It doesn't mean that what you knew or what you were always used to was not good enough. I always thought that I can't do realistic drawing or that I'm just not up for it. But when I actually tried and I showed it to my client, he actually liked what I produced. It was a big happy moment for me when he liked it, and I was like, okay, so I can do a style that is similar to something that I never thought I would do. Okay. Design நல்லா இருக்கா?
Yeah.
நான் உங்களை படம் எடுக்கிறேன். Thumbs up பண்ணுங்க. Yeah. ரொம்ப தேங்க்ஸ்ங்க. Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to finally see everything up on the stall right now. It's been such a big journey for me. There's so much of growth that I've personally felt as an illustrator. I ventured out of my comfort zone and I just need some time to enjoy this happy feeling and admire my work at Pondok Abang. So yeah.
In terms of heritage elements, if you just put on a design lens and look everything with a more observant and keen eye, something that you see every day can actually inspire a design process, and there's so much of story and thought process behind it. In Singapore, you might think that we don't really have a culture of our own, but there's so much of uniqueness in things that we see around us that we can learn from for design.